Hello, this is Angelique, and you're listening to We're Booked Up, a segment of the Gaston Speaks podcast wherein Kendall, Andrew, and I discuss books. This month's book is The Tobacco Wives, a debut novel by Adele Myers. There will, of course, be spoilers for the book. On a side note, since this is going to be posted in February, you may have noticed that we are a little late with this episode. Apologies for that. There were some unforeseen circumstances.
It was me. Hi, I'm the problem. Sorry.
We might have another episode for this month to make up for it, but probably not. Now, what have we been reading or watching? Kendall?
Well, I've watched a lot because we had the plague.
Oh, no. You had like multiple plagues. Didn't you?
Yeah. No, okay, so I had surgery,
Yeah.
and then my children had 2 weeks of a stomach bug that would not go away, and then we had COVID, and now we're here. So
we made it. That's what's important. You made it to the.
I know, but my kid Levi brought home a cough, and so that's why I'm masked up today.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's COVID, but I do think it's death. Anyway, what have I watched? I've actually watched a lot of stuff. Good stuff. Glass Onion.
Oh, good movie.
So good.
Yep.
It sent Marcus on a Janelle Monáe deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came to me and he goes, Kendall, have you ever heard of the book Kindred? And I was like, why, yes, it's actually what we're going to be reading next month. And then we watched Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Fabulous.
Yay.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Love that movie.
I loved it. It was so
And
good.
I know it's weird. I know you like, because you have kids and you don't have time, but I'm like, it's one of those two. I've watched it now like 3 times, and every time it just gets better. Like, I find new things, because once you get that first time, so zany.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start to dive into it, and it's good. It's such a good movie.
The intergenerational stuff.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. And you know what I like at the end? No, I'm not going to say what I like at the end because we won't do spoiler alerts for that. We'll talk about it off air.
Afterwards, yes.
All right, I watched something else. Strange World, the Disney movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually kind of cute.
Yeah, it kind of died by the box office, which I was shocked, but apparently people liked it. So
It was good.
Yeah.
I liked it. I recommend it. Wyatt watched it and enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Well, good. So it's good for kids. That's
and Jonah Hill, You People.
good. Oh, yeah. Was that good?
I liked it, but it's
Okay.
like just like a. It's a cute
It's
little love story.
Kenya Barris, the guy who did Blackish. Yeah. I've heard
And
about
Jonah
it.
Hill got together. They wrote.
Okay, cool.
I found it enjoyable, but that's all right. As for reading, I only read this book all the way through, and I started a bunch. I've started Crying in H Mart. I don't know. I have to finish it first before I can comment on it. And I started Artemis by Andy Weir. The reason I started and then didn't finish is because there were audiobooks through Overdrive.
Oh, gotcha. So they went away.
So they have disappeared, and I'm waiting for them to come back
Gotcha.
to me.
Gotcha.
That's me.
All right, Andrew.
So I've been watching a lot of screeners for the Indie Spirits, and I did catch up with that To Leslie. Remember we talked about in the Oscar podcast, and she got that surprise nomination.
yeah.
Now they're investigating it because there might have been some like.
I saw that.
Yeah,
That was such
yeah.
a good podcast.
But it's
episode,
actually a
guys.
great
Thank
movie.
you.
Yeah, she really is good in it. I mean, I get why there was a lot of support for it. And then I watched, what's the one I watched? Oh, I watched this one called After Sun. It's Paul Mescal. He got nominated for Best Actor. It's a brand. He was in and I said it the wrong way. I said Ordinary People, Normal People. He was in that Hulu series. So I did watch that again. I watched it like I realized I hadn't finished it. And I should have, because it was very different than what. Anyway, and so I did watch that one again. I'm trying to get through all those different ones. And then, of course, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, like another time, because I had to. And then for read, that's basically, I was just trying to get through screeners, and some of them are great, and some of them are, indie. That's just the way of putting it. And then I read, for book club, we read The Diamond Eye, which is by Kate Quinn, who we've had here at the library. And I thought I was really going to hate it, because I'm just not a historical fiction person. And it's like this female sniper in the Soviet Union during World War II. I was like, oh, it's going to be depressing. And it was. But then the second half of the book, and this is a true story, it's so funny because you think about everything going on now. It's like, really? We did this? She actually did come to the United States and like met with Eleanor Roosevelt, stayed at the White House, and they traveled around the country to try to drum up support for that part of the war to help the Soviets defeat Germany. And there's this whole like subplot, which is totally fake, and they meant to it, but it's like a thriller, a plot to assassinate the president, And that part was great. So even though it's like 4 to 50 pages, it was like the first half I'm like death, destruction, sadness, sniper bullet, death, destruction. Like that was basically it. And then the second half it kind of picked up, so that was good. And then I started our book club book for next month, which is The Last to Vanish by Megan Miranda. And she
Mhm.
actually lives, I believe, in Davidson or Huntersville. So she's a North Carolina author. So we're excited to see how that goes. Maybe we can get her. That'd be
Ooh.
cool.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yep.
Is it my turn, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, so I also watched Glass Onion, and I really
So
liked it. I
good.
watched it twice, actually. I don't know why. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, of course. And then I watched Nope, that Jordan Peele
Boy,
movie.
scary.
That one was really good. I like that
It's
one.
so good, but scary.
I'm not allowed to watch it. It's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I am allowed, and I'm encouraged to watch it, but also I'm not allowed to watch it right now.
It's good,
I gotta wait like 5 or 10 years.
though. Okay. You'll enjoy it when you get to it, I hope.
Yeah.
I'll be dead, but you tell Angelique how it is. Okay, just kidding.
Wait,
Just
'cause it's
joking.
been 5 or 10 years.
I also decided to reread most of the Murderbot Diaries.
I love you.
Girl, you have been on that. Like,
She has a new book coming out in November.
oh, okay.
Oh, so
okay.
she
It's
gotta
like a
brush up.
noveling.
She's
Yeah.
gotta- she's gotta
I'll
get
probably
to
read it again before then. All
I
right.
can barely get through the 2 books I have to read. Everybody, Angelique's like, yeah, I blazed through like 18 books this month. I don't. I had more power.
Well, I
to
can
you.
read those fast since I've read
That's
them
true, that's
several
true.
times.
She's
before.
probably just clip. She could probably skip to the pages she likes.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
All right. So let's get started on the book. We read The Tobacco Wives, and the book is on my lap. I couldn't find it for a second. So
We're
we'll
off
start.
to a good start, y'all.
We'll start with the synopsis, and then we'll move on to the rating. All right. Maddie Sykes is a promising seamstress who's just arrived in Brightleaf, North Carolina, the tobacco capital of the South, where her aunt has a thriving sewing business. After years of war rations and shortages, Brightleaf is a prosperous wonderland in full technicolor bloom, and Maddie is dazzled by the bustle of the crisply uniformed female factory workers, the palatial homes, and most of all, her aunt's glossiest clientele, the wives of the powerful tobacco executives. When a series of unexpected events thrust Maddie into the role of lead dressmaker for the town's most influential women, she scrambles to produce their ornate gowns for the biggest party of the season. But soon she learns Brightleaf isn't quite the carefree paradise that it seems. A trail of misfortune follows many of the women. Although Maddie is quick to believe this is a coincidence, she inadvertently uncovers evidence that suggests otherwise. Maddie wants to report what she knows, but in a town where everyone depends on big tobacco to survive, she doesn't know whom to trust, and fears that exposing the truth may destroy the lives of the proud, inspiring women with whom she has forged strong bonds. Shedding light on the hidden history of women's activism during the post-war period, at its heart, The Tobacco Wives is a deeply human, emotionally satisfying, and dramatic novel about the power of female connection and the importance of seeking the truth. So, what did we think about that?
First of all, it's long.
Yes, it is.
I made a face at one of the parts. I was like, it's like,
The power of female connection.
yeah.
I'm like-
no, she forged relationships
Yeah.
or something with them.
But it makes it sound like she forged relationships like with the factory workers, which she
yeah.
did.
No.
And I'll get to that in a minute. That whole plot ploy,
Yeah.
it was a ploy. They threw them in just to have a ploy to distract from. Anyway,
Yeah.
it wasn't like they built those characters. They had like one meeting that she went to.
Yeah.
Like,
And she left early.
and then she left early. She didn't want to get
Sounds
caught
like me.
because she didn't want to lose her friends with the rich women. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the blurb is a solid. I mean,
Yeah. Sounds like a good book.
yeah, it does.
Okay.
This is gonna be a fun one. I have a feeling this is gonna be a fun
I
one.
don't know. All right, Andrew, what's your rating?
2 stars.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna give my okay. My rating is 3 stars.
Okay.
Sometimes 3.25.
Okay.
I have some emotional ties to this book, I think because of history and my family history, and we'll get into that. But before we really talk about anything in the book, I feel compelled to put a trigger warning on this book to our readers.
Mhm.
This book deals a lot with women, femininity, motherhood, and tobacco before it was any kind of regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the trigger warning would be infertility, infant loss, pregnancy loss. Just be aware, reader. But yeah, I liked it a little more than I think you guys did. But is it my most favorite book? No.
Can I say I did actually start with a 3 on Goodreads, and then I kind of thought about it, and I will say the ending when we get to why we didn't like it. That was why, and the more I thought about it, I actually knocked it down. So I feel like through a lot of the book, I liked it better, but then the more I actually like sat there and because I actually finished this one like not last
know.
night. And so the more I had time to think about it, I had more problems with it.
I feel
There was
like
a lot to like, though. I will say that.
I feel like there was a lot for me to relate to as that it's I wouldn't really say it's the North Carolinian in me because my family is from Virginia, but they're from Danville, Virginia, which is right on the
Right on the
border.
Mhm.
yep.
So I think that's why I have a lot more. I think like reading this was looking back. It was like peeking back into my grandparents' lives, and so much of what they did, or what I assume they did. I don't really know because my grandparents, silent generation. My
Yeah.
grandparents, I'm talking 1923, 1924.
Right.
When I talked to my grandpa about his experience in World War II, he didn't talk to me. He just wouldn't,
Right.
so it was nice to be able to take a peek, but then it was also on the other end, I got to see what like the end of this book looks like. I get to see what this book looks like in 1990, 1995 because I lived it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there were some problems.
And that's
Yeah.
I agree with you. And when we talk about what we like about it, I agree. I like the fact she went to UNC. She's Tar Heel, and some of the historical parts of it are very accurate. And I think that I feel like she's one of those that she's going to get better as a writer. I feel like there's a lot of potential. I just struggled. Yeah, there's a few things that I struggled with.
I don't know. I think you guys should go hard with what you really think. That's fine. I'll
No.
be in.
No?
I don't want you to shy away just because
You
I
can go
kinda
back
liked
through it.
it. So we'll provide those
I
opposing.
literally put a 3, and then like 2 days later, I knocked it down to a 2.
Yeah. So
So maybe 2.5ish because there is no. I hate that Goodreads doesn't have half stars. They
I
should.
know.
But yeah, no, I get where you're. I feel like we're gonna agree on a lot, and then there's just gonna be a few points where I'm like,
Sorry, we're gonna get to your questions. I know that we agreed to do this like last time, but I am genuine. Like, how would you rate this compared to Where the Crawdads Sing?
Ooh, I still liked Where the Crawdads Sing a little bit.
Really?
Better.
Oh, okay. We'll discuss it later.
Yeah.
go, Angelique. Go. Let's stick to
Not
the
the movie.
list.
Movie was terrible.
haven't seen the movie.
So my rating, I started with the 3, but then I finished it, and now it's like between because those last like 80, 100 pages.
Yeah.
I just didn't,
Yeah.
or maybe it was
me
just because of
too.
the length of time between reading. But yeah, between a 2 and a 3 somewhere. All right, first question. What was your first impression of Maddie Sykes? Did you like her?
I thought she was gonna be older. The fact that she was only 15, she's a
Yeah.
kid. She is a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
And I had to keep reminding myself of that
Yeah.
because I was kind of annoyed with her. But I was like, oh, she's 15 years old. Like, and every time I reminded myself of that, I'm like, oh, that's why she's acting this way.
I get that 15 in 1946 is different than 15 today.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Like, I mean, Marcus's grandmother. Oh, I probably shouldn't put her business out like that, but she was married at 16.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, that was my grandmother was married at 17. So yeah,
my grandmother was married at 18. Like,
Yeah.
I know a great grandmother. I know that is a normal thing, and that was part of. It's different, but she's still 15.
Yeah.
She's made like 2 dresses the previous summer, and she is put in charge of all of the dresses.
Yeah. She's suddenly like an expert. That kind of bugged me.
Mm-hmm.
Also, she was just there were times where she was just annoying to me, but I think it was because they were trying to write her as a teenage girl, and so teenagers are annoying.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that we all were that age. It's how they're
You're supposed
processing
to be.
things, they're learning things, they don't understand things, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I didn't dislike Maddie. I just also every time something would happen that was stressful, it would be like 3 paragraphs about, and then she thought about her father,
Mm-hmm.
and she thought about her mother and leaving her, and she thought about. I'm like, but it was every time. It was like, we get it, we know what she's going through. You don't have to keep hitting. And then again, I thought, well, maybe that's the point of the 15-year-old. They're obsessing over those things that they can't control, and they don't know how to deal with them. I don't know.
I'm just thinking. Sorry.
No,
you
you're
look
good.
like you're responding to my face, and my face is thinking. And I'm trying to decide, was the author trying to make... Maddie obviously wasn't omniscient, but like the way the author was describing everything, like she was taking a lot of effort to point out. My big issue was the fact that they talked about tobacco on every single page, every single
Yeah.
paragraph. It was in the background. It was on the radio. It was just everywhere. And I'm like, yes, tobacco is important
To that town.
to the town, and it's North Carolina.
Yeah, it's our history. Yeah.
But it was too much. It's like,
It was like a non-smoking ad constantly.
Yes, which was very frustrating because when you see something that every day, you don't talk about it like that. Like, we're around books all the time.
Right.
We do not, like, live and breathe books. We're not like, ooh, listen to this book ad on the, radio. Not that that happens, but you know what I mean? So anyway, but Maddie, back to the question. She was okay. She was a young girl. I think she was written to be the hero with no flaws.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't mess up any of the dresses.
Yeah, she didn't
Everything
have a
was
lot of-
fantastic.
She didn't have a lot of character growth.
Yeah, it was kind of all around. Nothing really exciting happened in this book.
No.
Yeah.
Or like to Maddie. So, yeah. What did you think of Maddie?
I don't know. She was kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really. So at first I thought that, this book isn't young adult, but the more I read it and the more like we followed her, I was like, yeah, this is kind of like a young adult setup.
I had the thought that kids in middle school need to be reading this book
Me too.
because of how much information
Yeah.
the author was trying to put in the subtext
Yeah.
of the book.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't need this as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, but for like teens,
Perfect. I think that's right. This should have been a young adult book.
yeah, but I think it wasn't because it's historical fiction and maybe that's just not like
And there were
trending
things
right now.
like loss of pregnancy. I mean, there was
Yeah.
stuff that maybe
I mean, well,
But
you
that-
can talk about that in
Yeah.
young
you
adult.
can. I just
I
maybe
think
that's
you
why
should.
they maybe that's why they thought maybe it was too mature or whatever, or she thought it was
Maybe.
too mature.
I mean, I think she's trying. Well, I think she had an interesting story that she wanted to tell,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think it hits at an interesting time when vaping is kind of
Yeah.
becoming a big thing. A big thing. It's like just tobacco reinventing itself or whatever.
Right.
So it's timely, I guess, in that
Sense.
regard.
Yeah.
And we have removed ourselves so far from some of the effects of tobacco. It is understandable that it's like, wait, guys, hang on. But I don't know. I just keep thinking about when I was in high school and one of my theater classmates was in one of those Truth commercials.
Oh, okay.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
And-
yeah. And I heard that at one point, one of the reasons why the vape stuff is exploding is because they used to have those commercials on TV.
Oh, that's funny.
But now the kids are watching Netflix. Like some of them watch TV, but they can't hit them as like they used to have on MTV like every other
Oh my
commercial
God.
break they were there, right?
Yeah.
Well, now kids are like on Netflix. There's no commercials,
Uh,
and so they can't reach them the way that they used to. So they're having to figure out how to do it on social media and stuff. But even then, there's some teens that aren't even on social media because they're tired of it. So it's like all those campaigns, the way that they used to, all those hard hitting,
mhm.
the people with the breathing tube things and
Mhm.
stuff
Yeah,
like that would
yeah.
scare us. They can't hit this generation with those ads the way that they used to.
And I don't know. I feel like the message needs to get out there, but they got to get a little bit more clever. Anyway, so I think this I understand why this is here. I don't know. My kids aren't going to watch their grandpas die from emphysema like I watched mine.
Yeah.
I have that real world experience, but my kids
My
don't.
grandfather quit smoking cold turkey in 1976. And in
That is so
2014, he died
impressive.
of lung cancer
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
because it was already done. The damage was done.
That is so upsetting.
I mean, that's because he was, and even when he stopped, he's sitting in a boardroom at BB&T and everyone's smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone at the church is smoking. Everyone, just because he and Mimi stopped didn't mean that the world. His mother-in-law, my great grandmother, smoked till her dementia was so bad she forgot she smoked.
I didn't even realize the green monster that she talked about, just being around the tobacco leaves, that it would get in your skin like that.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that happened. Again, because I think we're far enough removed from the tobacco lifestyle. I could not have told you what a tobacco plant looks like. I mean, this is still the second biggest export in North Carolina because I looked it up.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's like $500 million or something like that, billion dollars.
it's international.
And-
they smoke a lot internationally. Europe and East Asia
Okay,
is
that's
where a
good
lot
to
of
know.
that stuff goes. So a lot of people, it's a culture shock. Apparently, if you travel to Tokyo or some of these big cities, and it's it's modernized. I mean, it looks like the future, compared to a lot of our cities, but everyone smokes.
So it's weird that we're close. I'm close enough to know people personally who were definitely affected by the effects of tobacco, but I'm also far enough removed that I could not tell you what a tobacco plant looked like. We
Right.
did not go on field trips to the tobacco plants like they
Mhm.
did. Even see, I was in the 90s in elementary school, so in the 80s or
Yeah.
70s, they may have done.
Mhm.
It's I don't know. Anyway, you were talking about Maddie.
I've forgotten.
anyway.
She was just kind of.
It
yeah.
needs to be it needs
Yeah.
to be like a school
younger
read.
read,
And I
yeah.
agree. This would be a good school read.
Yeah. All right. Did you?
I'm good.
All right. So, what did you think of the setting of this book? Like in Brightleaf, North Carolina, and the time period.
I mean, I think she hit the nail on the head of the layers of the wives and the big
Mhm.
houses and the smaller houses, and you know the layers of society almost at that time. And she was good with descriptions of things. I mean, it wasn't necessarily. It was okay. It felt
Yeah.
like, that's how those towns were. That's how those people acted. I didn't have a problem necessarily with the setting.
The setting was fine. I think it was a clever place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right before the studies and stuff would come out. I
Mhm.
like that there was the link between women's rights, and I thought it was interesting that she chose to focus on the effects of tobacco on women
Mm-hmm.
because it's about the tobacco wives. It's a female character. I'm glad that she focused so much on that. I think it makes sense. It was appropriate.
Mhm.
What did you think?
I don't know. I didn't have a strong sense of place when I was reading
okay.
it.
You know
So,
what? Mine was sense memory
yeah.
because they would talk about the big plantation houses. And no, this was in Kentucky where my other side of the family grew tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Funny. Found out my great-grandparents grew or great-great-grandparents grew stuff. Didn't even know what the plant looked like. Anyway, but they had these massive white houses.
Yeah.
I understand. I can visualize a massive house. I can see that. I can see the farms and the town and the ladies in the dresses. Like,
Even if you drive
have
through
seen-
like eastern North Carolina or low country South Carolina today, a lot of these little towns, they still look like that. You have like the big
Mhm.
house or the one neighborhood where all the rich people live, and then you can see the poverty and you can see the different stratification, stuff like that. A lot of them have not grown or changed a lot since the end of the tobacco era because their economy collapsed. And so if you drive through there, I pictured some of these towns that I've driven through going back and forth to like the beach and stuff.
honestly, I felt it was kind of similar to here before they started tearing down the mill houses.
Yeah.
Here in
Yeah.
Gaston County, they briefly touched on the idea of textiles with Cornelia and the mauve
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
dye. And I could see Gaston County and Gastonia and all the little tiny towns. Like I could see it here.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
I
true.
don't think she did a good job of putting it in the book for someone, say, from like, I don't know, Idaho,
Right.
California. But as a North Carolinian, I didn't need that.
Okay. Let's see. Were there any plot twists or subplots that you loved or hated?
No, it was all kind of vanilla, like bland to me. Honestly,
I felt like the whole workers' rights thing, they sort of mention it. She goes to the one reading, and then you get all the way to the end, and Mitzi's going to go up there and make this big announcement, and it turns out it's for the women's rights, and there's this disappointment because you thought she was going to tackle the mom nets or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I feel like that whole plot device was so that there could be a disappointment in Mitzi, or that
Yeah.
I don't feel like that. I didn't feel like she explored that really truly
Mm-mm.
fully, and I hated the ending. So for me, it was I absolutely despised it because I'm like, what was the point of all this? And it was like, oh, for the women's workers' rights. I'm like, well, if you had explored that a little bit more, if that was the point, I don't know. I just felt like they threw that in just to have a plot twist at the end. Without really fully. I loved the idea of it. I love the idea of we're going to talk about post World War II and the women because this is history. That is totally cool. Think about like a League of Their Own, right? We had these great women's baseball leagues, and then the second the men came back, it's like, okay, get back in the kitchen. That
Mhm.
part is accurate, and that
Mhm.
part is important. But it didn't feel like they fully explored it, and then they made it such a big deal at the end. And I don't know, it just frustrated me.
I was kind of annoyed she didn't mention the Laura Mill strike.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because,
I
I
wonder
mean,
if she knew about it.
yeah, maybe
But
not.
Do
yeah.
your research.
I know, like that really, especially the factories and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. That really does make sense.
Because honestly, the reality is that after the Low-Rate Mill strike, there was a lot. I mean, that in many ways killed organized labor across the South in a lot of these places. So in a lot of places, people decided not to because of the failures, because of everything that happened at the low-rate mills. So there is some missing history there a little bit. Anyway, that's my labor history course in Carolina.
Yeah.
Kick it in there. It's like, well, actually there were a lot less in the South after that. But anyway,
I didn't hate the ending. I thought that it would have been too ridiculous if she went in and there was the big reveal, and they completely changed everything about how they handled the tobacco and how they talked to the wives, and, that instantly all of the babies are going to be saved. Like,
I didn't necessarily want that. I just felt like there was that huge moment, and then nothing happened. And then 20 years, it's like, I don't know. I felt like that was a big point, and there needed to be some more after that.
I can agree to that. Like,
I think that was it.
They jumped to the 1990s where she suddenly could do something.
Yeah.
And it still was like, I wish they hadn't. I would almost wish that if the feeling was we just went through all this, there was this big personal change and feeling stuck, like the social powers are too big and too grand. Like, I almost, if that's the case,
You know what?
made me
I
feeling
kinda-
awful.
But they didn't even explore that either. Like I said, it was like they threw in
Yeah.
that plot device because they had to have something, because they weren't going to tackle that, because the reality was it didn't happen overnight like that.
Mhm.
It took many, many years. I can handle all of that. It's just that then it was like, and then 20 years later, we're going to fight.
We're gonna do
There
it.
was there was nothing after that, and it just felt like it just poofed right at the end for me. I hated it. I was so disappointed, and I don't. Anyway, sorry.
I kind of wish that after Mitzi had like disappointed her, she went to like the union leaders and told them, and they still like didn't come out with like the information.
Ooh.
So it's like
She went to other avenues.
yeah,
and she kept,
and
and
then-
then they jumped, and it's like
yeah.
I'm still fighting for this. That would have
Yeah.
been better.
That would have played on the tension of we want to be good mothers, but we also want to be
Well,
respected as workers.
yeah,
It also would have
Whew.
given
and it is a
that
big industry.
plot point more resonance.
Yeah,
There would have been some more to that, because there was nothing
Ooh.
even in the epilogue or whatever. They didn't talk about the women's rights movement.
no,
Mm-mm.
That was a plot device, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but they could have done something with it without making it 100 pages longer. Add 25 pages, add a good chapter, like you said, and tie all of that together, and it would have made so much. Yeah, you need to write this book.
I
You need to
like
rewrite
that
this.
so much. We need to be editors of these books, y'all.
Like,
Send
we're not
us
going to
your-
write it, but we love to give you our opinion about it.
Yes, send us the advanced reader
James Patterson,
copy.
call us before your next book.
Please do. I
How
would
about
like a cut
just
of that.
Stop. Just stop. We are so going to get like a cease and desist letter at some point. Stop being mean to James Patterson.
No. All right. So, what were your favorite or least favorite moments in this book, or like your favorite or least favorite characters? If you want to do that instead.
Oh, I had a character that I really liked. I liked Ashley.
I loved Ashley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's good.
And I loved Cornelia. Those
I
are my
liked
two
Cornelia
favorites.
too. Those are my two favorites as well.
They were empowered women without it being a stereotype of empowered
Mhm.
women.
Yeah.
They were just they were just powerful women, and they knew how to work that system to try to fight, and they knew their limitations, and they felt real. Those characters
Mhm.
actually felt real, because like with Maddie, you said, oh, she's the perfect. These women were not painted as perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Neither Ashley nor Cornelia. In fact, Cornelia in particularly, you're not supposed to like her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's ornery and she's brusque and she's this and she's that. But that's because she's human, but she's still a really cool person underneath all that. So I actually felt like those are two. I think the reason I liked them is because they were the two best written characters of the
Mhm.
bunch.
I agree. I like them a lot. One thing that I wish that Adele Myers had done in the book a little differently was, remember we talked about how tobacco was everywhere, but we also talked about we haven't talked about the tobacco wives and that socialite, women socialites,
Socialites, yeah.
socialites the word. We haven't really talked, it was so in your face. And I think there is a subtlety to Southern culture that was kind of missed. And I wish that she had toned it down a little bit and it made the big, beautiful gala one like that. That's the obvious thing that's going on. And I wish it had been a little bit more secretive about the cigarettes. Like, I almost wish that Mitzi had found out earlier about the cigarettes and been having to wrestle with that. Because also, if
Yeah.
you're smoking cigarettes, there's an addiction factor.
Yeah.
You're gonna still... I don't know. There was no real struggle that we got to see. Anyway, I think it could have been a really good juxtaposition of the really flashy, wealthy life that tobacco has provided, and then the seedy underbelly that happens. And Southern culture is so perfect to be able to embody that. I think that was kind of a miss.
And also, too, you talk about the subtlety of it. We all know who's the top wife
Mm-hmm.
in that society.
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to say it. Like, you don't like, and I get she's having to describe it because you're trying to introduce this person. But again, there's a subtlety there of the way that these women talk about it. It's like, well, Mitzi's the top dog. That's not how it's just, you just know it.
You just know it.
You just know. You know not to cross Cornelia. You know not to do these things. And there's a subtlety to it. And that's another character. So I liked the subtlety of the aunt and Francis.
Yeah.
And their relationship. Because it was kind of like,
beautifully done.
Yeah.
in contrast to the absolute lack of subtlety with Anthony.
Yes.
Where he was a stereotype.
Yes.
And I was like, so you hit the nail on the head of, there's that little quick comment, they're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She happened to be in the basement
Right.
when, or that lower level
Yeah.
when what's her face arrived, Maddie arrived.
And then the whole doctor using that against her, I could totally see that happening.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
minorities are, any sort of minority group are considered, when they're useful, we just keep it to ourselves. But if she's no longer sewing the dresses and you're going to bring down this empire, I'm bringing all of you down. I could totally believe that.
Yeah.
That's believable. I liked Anthony, and it turns out Anthony's a great guy, and they end up going into business. They end up being friends and all that kind of stuff. She overdid it to make him a stereotype.
She made him, the way she wrote him sometimes made me feel like she was going to make him betray Maddie.
I
Yes.
thought so too. I was ready for it.
Like
I
he was
"Do it."
really passive aggressive in a way, like always saying something to make it seem like he was bitter. But then she never, like he kind of, I feel like he kind of disappeared a little bit
Yeah.
towards the end of the book. And then with Mitzi, I get the feeling we were supposed to like her, but she kind of, the way she wanted Maddie to call her Mimi after knowing her for a few weeks, and I was like, that makes me uncomfortable. That's weird.
It
Well,
made
I
her
think-
uncomfortable.
I
Yeah.
think the idea there was to try to be like, because she's lost children, David was like the child she never
Yeah.
had. Maddie was like the child she never had, but they never quite. I guess you were just supposed to infer that along the way that you like.
Yeah, I got it, but I don't know. Something about the way she just it made her seem like she was like a horror movie character that was going to turn on her. Like she was going to lure her
Agreed.
in with all this stuff,
Love
and then
bomber.
like
She
when
did
she
kind
doesn't,
of.
yeah,
She did kind of turn on her. I
Yeah.
mean, in a subtle way of not really, acting like she was going to do something about it, and then really not do anything about
Yeah.
it. And again, had they explored just a little bit more of the aftermath of that, of I can't change this, it will bring down everything. The workers' right. It would have made more sense, but it did kind of seem like she betrayed
It just
her.
made me not surprised when she did.
Oh,
I guess
yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
It just
Mhm.
yeah. So and there was one of my least favorite moments, and it's probably very like just a pet peeve. The way Maddie revealed herself to have like to Dr. Hill about that she had that memo.
I had to read it twice. I was like, did that just happen?
Yeah, I'm like that's.
Oh, I have it right here. Like,
It just feels really lazy.
Mhm. I guess it's just because she's a 15-year-old girl.
also,
Yeah.
I no offense, but if you're gonna have a love interest, David was the most boring.
Yes. Okay. So I'm
Like
gonna
there was
admit-
nothing
I'm
about
gonna-
him that
I'm
was
gonna-
like swoony, and I don't like.
So I'm gonna admit to something.
He was nice to her and didn't treat her like
Yeah.
trash. Swoon.
Yeah. So there's this part.
Married.
There's this part where she says, "You're really something, David Taylor," and I gagged.
It's like the
It's like, this
cime
is
on
stupid.
Spider Monkey of
Yeah.
that book. It's
You're
just
really
like-
something, David Taylor. No.
but that's it. That's like the only description we get of him is he's a real something. It's like-
He's some pig.
Okay.
I don't know how you jump from that to we're in love forever. Like
Yeah,
if you're gonna
I
add
don't-
that plot twist, make him interesting. So
She
that,
was so resistant at first too.
I know. And then all of a sudden, it was like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, he
He's
was.
so
There was nothing wrong with him,
sweet.
but again, he was like a lot of the parts. There was just nothing. There was vanilla.
He was a love interest, and that's like it.
Yeah, but even I don't know.
Yeah.
On one hand, I was like, I think he was the only person introduced in the book. It would have been nice if she jumped forward the 30, 40, 50
Like
years, 45,
40 yeah, something like that.
44 years. I can do math.
We
And
cannot,
she'd be
so I'm
married
glad
to
you
someone
can.
else and Mitzi appear out of nowhere.
That would be good.
And it's just be like, oh, hey, lady who betrayed me. And
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with the timeline of this book. So I don't know if I just wasn't reading closely enough, and that's entirely possible because I fade out sometimes. And so there's like one point where Maddie says, "Well, it's been 2 weeks." I'm like, "It's been 2 weeks?"
she messed up because she, prior to that, she had said she had been there for almost a month. And that was before she had been there for 2 weeks. There is a timeline issue.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about, like, it's been I thought it'd only been, like, a few days.
Well, it's because that's how she writes it. It's like
Yeah.
she didn't write the passage of time.
Yeah.
Also, and it just made me think of something. So you know how like there's the joke about where the crawdads sing, where it's like Asheville and the coast are like 5 feet from each other.
They just edited out
She
the
was in
Piedmont.
Winston at Baptist Hospital, but it made it seem like they were in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah.
I thought
That
they
would
were
be-
in Durham.
But even then, that's like
Durham and Winston aren't that far apart.
an hour and a half hour.
Well, maybe it's Winston, like their last name. Maybe it's not like Winston-Salem.
But then they said Baptist Hospital, which is Wake Forest in Winston-Salem.
Wake Forest is not that far from Durham. Brightleaf is in that area.
Okay.
So it wasn't Eastern North Carolina.
See, that's the problem I had. I had no idea,
I-
really,
I-
geographically,
I
where this
Googled it.
was.
I was curious
But
if
then, like-
Brightleaf was a place, and I could not find Brightleaf, the city, North Carolina. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. But there is a Brightleaf section of
Yeah.
Durham
Okay.
that talks about
Still,
the
it
tobacco
made it
and
seem
stuff.
like that it was like a hop. It still is like a good like 45 minutes to an hour
Mhm.
between the triad and the triangle, and they made it seem like she just like skipped and jumped over there.
That is true. But she went to UNC. The author went to UNC. You'd think she addressed
I know
that.
that's my point. Like you probably have driven like I for 4 years drove through the triad and then
Mhm.
drove to Durham, and it's probably if there's traffic, and this was before I-85, so it probably would have been
Yeah.
like 2 hours. Anyway,
Now I'm curious.
quite
Let's
as-
Google it.
not quite as bad as Asheville and the coast being like 5 feet apart, but it's
Okay, that is ridiculous.
That was
I have a
ridiculous.
huge issue with that. And because Delia Owens, I feel like
She's from South Africa, isn't she? Or she lived in South Africa.
they
for a
lived
long
in
time.
she lived in Africa. I don't think she's from there. But she wrote, her writing style was prettier. Like the Where the Crawdads Sing, I thought it was prettier. But I thought she didn't write like she knew anything about North Carolina.
So can I say
What's it
something?
called? Winston what? Yes, you can say something.
So there's this technique that Myers used when she was like giving information. She would do like a couple lines of dialogue and then a paragraph of what somebody said to Maddie, just describing it,
Mhm.
and then go back into dialogue.
hour and 39 minutes
Dang, you're right. Okay. I can see.
on 85.
Oh yeah, and that didn't exist because I did notice that she went to Durham via Monroe, is what she said.
Oh, that makes no sense.
That makes no sense. And I was like,
'Cause
but
64 would have been. I mean,
because I was
64
like
would've been there.
40 wasn't in existence until
No.
the 50s because I looked that up. Okay, I'm sorry. Angelique was having a very valid point, and we were still stuck in our directions. I apologize.
So she'd do that description dialogue thing, and I
Uh-huh.
feel like it could have all been dialogue half the time.
Yes.
And it bugged me. She did it constantly.
Yes. It's been so much more interesting if it just been
Yeah,
dialogue.
just say it. Have them say it to her.
That's part of what gave Maddie that like really old feeling.
Yeah.
That like there was no discovery with Maddie. It was like, oh, of course.
I know best.
Well,
I'm going to save everything. That
like,
was
what 15-year-old can read like medical jargon in a letter
yeah.
and realize that it's harmful to babies, then hear every adult in her life tell her no, it's not harmful to babies, and then still have the opinion that it's harmful to babies? Like,
Do y'all remember that scene where she just gives Mitzi a cigarette after she's found that out?
Like-
no hesitation. She just hands it to her.
Well, didn't she? I mean, because I guess that's the addiction coming through. But she's like, I could really
No,
use a
it was
cigarette
it
now.
was Maddie.
No, but I'm saying Maddie would make these comments about like, oh, I could use a cigarette right now, and then we talk about the addiction of it, and then all of a sudden she's like, nope, I'm not doing it
Not
anymore.
doing it.
That's not how that works.
I know.
People try to quit for years. There's patches and programs, and it's yeah. See, the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. Like when I first just like finished it, I was like, okay, cool, and then it's like I start. There are a lot of little issues.
Yeah.
There's not a big issue. There's just a
Kinda
lot of
add
little
up.
issues.
You know what I feel like? I feel like this book was not written for me. I feel like this book was written for book clubs in North Carolina.
Yeah.
and
We're
they
reading
would
it for
eat
book
this
club,
up.
Yeah.
by the way. Yeah.
I think your ladies are going to eat it
Oh,
up.
they will. Yeah, they'll like it. So, Carol, Pam, I'm sorry. Don't listen to this before you read it.
We should put that
don't
at
wanna-
the
I could have
beginning.
put that at the beginning.
We should have. I don't want you all to get disappointed.
I don't know. I liked it. I would. It's still better than Where the Crawdads Sing for me. It's
Fair
still
enough.
better.
I haven't read that
And I'm
one.
okay that you liked it better. But
I didn't
just,
particularly like it. That's not. I
Yeah.
didn't particularly like either of them. There are parts. I felt like there were parts of Where the Crawdads Sing where some of these writing issues were a lot better.
That's why I said Delia Owens, I think, was a better writer.
Right. And that's why I said, and overall,
She'll improve.
I still had a lot of issues. The whole, like, she went and then she came back and then she like, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's we don't want to dive into that.
Did you read the end, like, after, like, the author's note where, like, someone, in, like, a professor or someone in college was like, this shouldn't be a short story. It should be a long novel. I kind of wish I would have stayed as a short story.
I'm going to sound really mean for a second.
Oh, just for a second. Let's go.
There's this...
Because we've been so kind up to this point.
I really hope she doesn't listen to this.
Well, no, what I want to tell her is I think there's a lot of potential, and I think that I'd like to see her keep... Like,
yeah, she should definitely keep writing.
Right. And I'm totally supportive of Go Tar Heel. Like, you know, and so I think that she's just... I think her editor did her some disservice. Too.
Yeah.
I think that's
maybe
probably
the editor
true.
was the one, like, maybe you shouldn't have so much dialogue here, just describe it, but that's wrong. No, don't do that.
Right.
Undo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this part where she's talking about the advertisement, and she's like, I drew upon my experience in the field to develop Mr. Winston's plan, including techniques like credentialing, target audience insights, and attribution of health benefits to ingredients versus the final product.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that sounds really obvious, though. Like, a really obvious marketing strategy that people would just come up with. It just sounded like no
she was
duh.
supposed to be an expert.
Yeah.
But it's like, well,
It's
that's
like,
how
yeah,
everyone...
Yeah, that's just marketing.
Well, maybe she did it so well, it was, like, so easy for you guys.
Well,
I mean,
they did love the mom mints. So,
9 out of 10 dentists would agree, I think.
I always want to know who that 10th dentist is or that 5th dentist is.
That's a
He's
really
just not
good
a
point.
joiner. Okay. We'll skip that one.
Oh, now I want to know what they are.
Well, I was just going to ask what y'all thought about how she kind of, like, advanced research by, like, 20 years to write this book in this time period. But...
Oh, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Keep going.
We talked...
smart.
We cannot answer that intelligently. So.
How do you feel about the ending? Well, we already talked about that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, well, who would you cast in the movie or this book?
All I kept thinking about was Bryce Dallas Howard and The Help. So, or Jessica Chastain.
I did
That'd be
think of
good.
Jessica Chastain for Mitzi.
Yeah. That could be good.
Because remember,
Mhm.
she had the pregnancy issues.
I know, that was very triggering.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, wait,
But
she's
yeah,
already played this role.
I was like, I've seen this scene.
I think the problem, you're right, though, is that, like, with David, it could be the people they cast in Where the Crawdads Sing that no one knows their names. Like, it could just be the same. It could be any nameless, faceless, nice-looking
Yeah.
young
Like a Hallmark
actor.
movie cast.
Yeah.
Or it could be a blockbuster A-list cast, I feel like. And maybe that would make it better. I think this is written to be a screenplay because all of the stuff that was like in your face would have just
Yeah.
been really nice subtly. Like if in the background while they're eating breakfast and the parent goes to turn off the radio and it was a Moment's ad,
Mhm.
or like or she's picking up all of her magazines or whatever, and then something's there. Like I don't know. The bathtub scene where she was still dirty, like from all the tobacco. Like
Yeah.
I didn't need a comment about it. I
Yeah.
just needed her. Anyway,
You're right. There's some visuals that would be
Would
you could
work
do
better.
yeah.
I think it would have improved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But I really can't. And like I'm thinking of Cornelia, and I keep thinking like Maggie Smith. I'm like, okay, she's not British, and her God love her, but no more Southern accents. Okay, we've all seen Divine Yaya. Okay, it's Divine Secrets, Yaya Sisterhood, and that accent's a lot.
It is so much, but I love that.
I love that movie, by the way. Yeah, I do. But I had trouble picturing, and this is, normally I'm like, oh, I thought so and so. I don't know. I had trouble picturing
I couldn't picture anyone.
anyone.
Honestly.
And again, I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think with Jessica Chastain or Bright, it's because she's already played that character. She's played the
Yeah.
wife of the, whatever, who had the miscarriage. It's like, okay, so, and she's good at it. I love Jessica. That's not a slight. I love Jessica Chastain, but it's just like, it's not unique.
It should be a mini series on Amazon Prime, and they could film it in North Carolina and Wilmington and the Durham Raleigh area. I think that would work.
I did think of like Sadie Sink for Maddie.
That'd been good.
Oh,
with the red
that'd
hair.
be cute.
Yeah.
I say that cute, but I'm actually think she can like bring a little bit of substance to the
I was about to say she's almost.
character.
She's a very strong young woman and a very strong actress. She might. It might be hard for her to. I mean, she's a great actress, but she's going to portray, she's going to come off as a stronger presence on screen than Maddie did in the book.
Yeah.
I don't
Which
know.
is maybe
Maddie,
a good thing. Maybe we need that.
Maddie was so forward thinking in every aspect. There was no flaw. That's my big issue with Maddie is there was no like humanizing she's still 15 flaw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she proposed pants to Cornelia. I'm
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, that sounds nice, but honestly, I don't know. I have a hard
Glenn
time
Close.
believing.
Clean clothes.
Wow.
That's Cornelia. Because I'm now picturing her in a pantsuit.
That mauve pantsuit.
She would look fantastic in a mauve pantsuit.
Yeah, she would.
With that short hair. Oh, yeah. She should wear that to the Oscars. We should call her publicist.
We should. I like it.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis always wears like good pantsuits.
She does.
Yeah.
But Jamie Lee Curtis, I think I would put her as Etta before I would put her.
Yeah. See, I pictured Etta as like Kathy Bates. I don't know why. Just a bigger woman.
I found Etta to be somewhat dislikable.
I know. She was.
I wanted to like her so much because Maddie loved her so much.
Yeah.
But I just didn't.
Okay, so now because we talked about Yaya, I'm thinking of Ashley Judd as the mother.
Oh yeah, who just dips out?
Right.
Yeah.
That could be just because she kind of
Okay,
has that moment where
Have a good time.
she'd be good at that.
Yeah.
I like it. I like Ashley Judd. It's not slight. Yeah.
No, I like
That's
it.
the other thing. That mom story, like
Yeah.
she never called, she never got, and then all of a sudden at the end
There's
of
a
the book, she lives
postcard.
nearby.
Well, there's that one moment where she's like, "Oh yeah, my mom sent me a letter or a postcard," and
From
then
the
she
Grand
moves
Ole
on.
Opry.
Yeah. It's like, so it's fine now, I guess.
Oh my god.
But like that, there was no, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, she and her husband live close. We're cool. I mean, I'm glad they worked it out. That's great. But that was
Yeah.
a huge
Yeah.
plot point. Like it, and it just. She also at some point she mentioned her father so much at the beginning, and then at the last like 100 pages, you never heard about him again. So it's like, again, that was something to try to build the character, but then you didn't follow through with
I
it.
didn't really like the contrast between the mom and the dad, honestly.
They made. I mean, I guess that sometimes can happen.
Yeah.
If you lose a parent, that parent becomes the saint.
Well,
And the
no,
other
even
one, like-
before
Like,
he
even when he was alive,
he
they
left.
had that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like we only met him in memory.
Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
true.
That's true.
And so
And the mother was in grief, and so
and
how do
she
you
was
judge
just
someone who's-
devastated.
Yeah.
And it was clear, I think, to me that she married her husband for love,
Hmm.
and that she would talk about how her mom would like wake her up and they would eat ice cream in the bathtub or whatever it was. Like they had moments, but it was really the dad that centered their family.
But I think, and that's why I hate that they didn't explore it further, because I actually did like that, the idea of she can't handle it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she says to her, I have to go find a husband. I don't even think it was that. I think that was what she told her daughter. You could tell that it was, I am too much in grief to raise this kid right now. And that I
That's-
totally understand. And I felt like that worked. And so you when you started, you're like, okay, I'm into this. This is what's going on.
Mhm.
And then she's done. And then
Yeah.
you don't ever hear about her. And it's like, again, it was something where you had something there that could have been interesting, like the Organization of Women's Rights or Workers' Rights, but it was a plot device. It was a plot device that didn't fully get explored.
If this had been like more of, I don't want to say slice of life, but more like a longer timeline within
Mhm.
like that summer where her mom kind of like dips in and out,
Yeah.
that would be good. Like she keeps re-abandoning her kind of thing.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah, and then Maddie also has to deal with knowing this information and seeing what like being in a tobacco town actually does to people kind of thing.
So one of the things that the synopsis said was that she learned some information and that she had to then like decide if she was going to tell the bigwigs or whatever. It made it seem like she was going to get some resistance, but every single adult she told, with the exception of Dr. Hale,
Right.
Which makes
said,
sense.
tell everyone, tell, get this information out. And I don't think that would happen.
Right.
No.
And
don't
clearly,
think.
it didn't get
Mm.
out. I mean,
Mm.
it got swept under the rug.
Mhm.
And again, that could have been after that big moment where Mitzi disappoints her.
Like she goes,
That would have made a huge difference in the
Mhm.
whole ending of that book to say, I got there, and I couldn't beat the system. But you know what?
Ah.
Then we skip ahead 40 years. I'm still fighting. I'm not
Yeah.
giving up. And you know what? We're gonna win. And you know where that history goes. You do know that they won these lawsuits and that these regulations did. All those things happened.
Mhm.
I don't know. That it's just again, it's I hate that ending. I had so many, and the more I talk about it, the more problems I find with it. And I hate to say that, but it's just.
I think one thing I think she did do well was she made Dr. Hale very disagreeable. And I'm reading that and like reading about like the scene where, you know, they're in the doctor's office and he's threatening her Maddie or whatever. No, it wasn't that scene. What scene was it? It was the Dr. Hale at some time turns to Mitzi and was like, "You shouldn't be at work because your hormones, you're so delicate, you need to go lay down." And I wanted to just like, I don't know, rip his arms off. Like,
and I also believed the whole like his older brother died, he was the golden child, and so he's all this campaign, all these things is to make him famous, to make a big name, maybe, you know, to try to that I can totally get that.
Moment I wish was in there? I wish the moment where Cornelia like found out and came down on her son, like put him in place. I would have. Or
Glenn Close just ripping him to shreds.
yeah, or even she tries to and fails. Because even as strong as Cornelia is, it still comes down to the man in 1946.
Yeah.
I would have preferred either. I wish that had
And
happened.
even if that had happened and the Mitzi, everything that happened, there still would have been that moment. There was never that moment, and I feel like you need that. You need that kind of moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it was bland otherwise. There wasn't. I mean, the climax was the peak of the story was like wah wah wah. I mean that, which was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this huge disappointment. But I don't know. You're right. I would have loved that scene.
Why do you guys think she made Mr. Winston have polio? Is he based off of a real character?
Maybe
I don't.
he could be.
I kind of don't enjoy the way she treated his character. Like the way it just felt very ableist.
Yeah.
A little bit discriminatory.
Or
I
maybe
don't mind that somebody with polio was the bad guy. That doesn't bother me. But like the way
But it did feel
they
like
talk
it was
about him.
like, oh, he has polio. You should try to like him, but really he's evil. I don't know, something. Yeah, you're right.
There was just something incredibly dislikable.
I mean, maybe it was because it was more of his character than it should have been.
Maybe.
Because he didn't really have much of a character.
Yeah,
otherwise.
he was like just an overbearing husband, and he had this disability, and that's about.
Because if you think about it, there's like one scene where you get any sort of characterization when they're having like lunch or something.
But, yeah.
There's no other characterization of him except for the description of him dealing with his disability. So you're right. Yeah, it was like again it was a underdeveloped character. So maybe she thought if I give him polio, that gives him something distinctive.
And it's like a sign of the times as well.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So.
It does help with placement. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. But I also didn't know, like, if Mr. Winston was based on a real guy or...
It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Well, I'll have to look it up for another time. When you guys do book club, let me know.
Those my book club ladies, they did their research on this Russian sniper.
That's
that was
fun.
in the last one. Yeah, they did their part. So I'm sure one of them will, if you're listening, between now at the at the end of next month, someone find it for me.
Okay, we've already talked to who we recommend it to. I mean, we both said like young adult book clubs, specifically like freshmen or older middle school students, maybe as like an introduction to North Carolina history. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And did you have any like disagreement with that?
No,
All right.
no, I agree with you. The book clubs in North Carolina, I think. And if you don't know a lot about, even adults, if you don't know a lot about this history, you do get some of that part. You do get a lot of that.
I actually think the majority of our contemporary fiction readers would like this. Especially if they just consume things en masse.
Yeah.
This is going to be an enjoyable read for them. If you're looking for super intricate, interesting settings, characters, things, plots, conversation, that's not really your book.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that Diamond Die was like 415 pages. It was a lot more, but you got to get through 415 pages versus 300 pages in order to get a lot more depth in that. So you're gonna have to slog through some thick historical fiction books.
Yeah. This book also did make me call my dad and my mom and like get some of the family history and like what they did with the tobacco and stuff like that.
And that, I will say, I did think about that too. So my my dad's dad was from Whiteville, North Carolina, which is right in the thick, and they owned a store called Pierce's, which actually still exists. We no longer own it, but they were like the store owners in the town that was built by those industries in Eastern North Carolina. So you're right, there is a lot of cool history there, and that part I definitely think is worth, especially if you don't know anything about any of it. This is a good introduction.
So she even the author talks about going back and realizing how much her family was involved in tobacco. And I feel like for me, it was an interesting like connection to go back and like, I never really knew what my Papa Bruce did in tobacco, but to find out for 40 years, he was the ticket marker on, like, I always knew that, but it was never like explained to me. So like the ticket marker is the person who is working with the auctioneer, which is what Ashley did. And he's the one who is watching all the like hand signals and who's buying what, so he knows who the buyer is, the auctioneer who knows, and then the ticket marker. She even referenced that in the book. That was my Papa Bruce.
That's cool.
And then like getting a visual of like what he would like the long pallets or like the pallets and long lines of tobacco. Like after one auction, he would take what didn't sell and like rearrange it, put it back out for another. They would have multiple auctions a day, like hundreds of them. And it just gave me a little bit more insight into like his, I don't know, day to day.
Yeah.
I don't know, I appreciated that conversation that I would never have had I not read this book. Anyway.
And I will say, you can tell that she does care about, like, she does understand the history. Even if there were some writing issues, there is clearly some passion into this.
I feel like writing issues makes it sound like it's a lot worse than it is. It's still like
subtle,
good, interesting, but it's
subtle
it's not
writing
like
issues.
It's what's the one that we read? The Noise. It's not like the noise
Just
where it's like
so horrible that there's no redemption. No, I agree.
So I don't know.
But I'm saying you definitely could tell this was something that meant something to her.
Yes.
And that does make, that's why it's a 2.53 versus a -4, like the Noise.
All right. So let's close it up. All right, to close out the episode, I would like to promote one of the library's best resources, NC Live. NC Live provides access to an online collection of 1.6 billion full-text articles, ebooks, streaming videos, digitized newspapers, language learning tools, and more. You can access NC Live through the library website, gastonlibrary.org, or through nclive.org. All you need is your library card number. So if you want to do some research on the history of the tobacco industry in North Carolina, NC Live is a great place to start. All right, that's it for this episode of We're Booked Up. The Tobacco Wives by Adele Myers is available at the library and through the NC Digital Library with the Libby app. Let us know what you think of the book and what you think of what we think of the book. Just leave a comment at the Off the Shelf blog at gastonlibrary.blogspot.com or at gastonspeaks.podbean.com. Next episode's book will be Kindred by Octavia Butler. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.